So, welcome to the Profit by Design podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sabrina Starling, and today I am joined by a very special guest, Dr. John Gordon, and he is the host of the Fearless Dentistry podcast. And we're in for a treat today because on the Profit by Design podcast, I love bringing you the stories of real life business owners and the learnings along the way. And I met Dr. John at Podcast Movement a few months ago, and we had a very brief conversation, but he made a statement or two in the course of that conversation that gave me chills. And I thought, oh my goodness, the Profit by Design podcast listeners need to hear this message from Dr. John. And so I want to share a little bit about his background and then we'll welcome him here. So Dr. John was in private practice in Kansas City for 42 years, and his passion for his work came alive when he transitioned from general dentistry to a lifestyle niche dental practice dedicated to making a difference in people's lives through exceptional patient and people experiences. And today we're going to find out what happened when Dr. John started asking his patients, "Tell me your story." So, first off, have you ever been to a dentist who has said, "Tell me your story"? No, and I have had some wonderful dentists in my life, some that are I consider friends. None of them have ever asked me, "Tell me your story." So that in and of itself, I think is just fascinating, and we're gonna dive into that. What I wanna share before we go there about Dr. John is that he loves mentoring and sharing what's helped him develop and maintain the practice that he's proud of for the right reasons. And in retirement, Dr. John has developed a passion for his Fearless Dentistry podcast. So if you want more Dr. John, you know where to go after listening to him today. Its purpose is to stimulate, encourage, and motivate his audience to take action on their dreams with courage, curiosity, focus, and commitment. So we're going to just dive right in to this. You had a general dentistry practice. I imagine you had it for quite some time. And I'm curious, were you kind of getting bored? Were you burning out? Tell me about what it was like to just be in general dentistry practice.
That's a great question, Sabrina. Thank you for asking that. No, I was not bored with my general dental practice. I loved it. I loved all aspects of dentistry. I loved meeting people. Um, but about 10 to 12 years into the general practice, I did a cosmetic case. I probably shouldn't share this, but I had no idea what I was doing with that case when I did it. But it's kind of like, just do it, John, just do it. Um, Cosmetic dentistry was becoming a little bit of a buzzword, buzz phenomena in dentistry. And so I kicked the tires with continuing education, and I came away thinking, I think I want to try this. And I really don't know exactly why until I remember vividly in the spring, April of 1987. I did my first cosmetic case on a young lady. And again, from a technical standpoint, from a clinical standpoint, I really didn't have the skills down when I did this. But the case turned out beautiful. I leaned on my lab to really provide me with a great product. When I seated the case on the young lady, I handed her the mirror to take the first look at her smile. And, she just broke down. I mean, she hadn't looked in the mirror 3 seconds, broke down, started crying. And I'm going, whoa, what's going on here? Right. The look on your face. Exactly. Fear. Why is she crying? I had never experienced emotion like that out of a patient. If they were crying, it was because of the perceived pain or some kind of an experience such as that. When she dropped the mirror herself, she got up and turned around, came back and gave me a hug and said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And it's like at that moment, there was an epiphany. I said, "John, you have got to do this. This is where you need to take your practice. And it was so compelling and so overwhelming. The emotion on my end, it's like, this is awesome. I went home that night and I thought, what happened today? What just happened? I had to process it a little bit. I'm a thinker. I'm an analytical.
Mhm.
I'm an introvert. You'd never guess it. You know, when we met in Denver, Sabrina, we talked pretty freely, didn't we?
Yes, we did. And I'm an introvert too, by the way. So there
Well,
you
there
go.
you are.
Introverts can be quite talkative.
Yeah. So you understand my trial, but
Mhm.
I'm a curious introvert. I'm an introvert that loves to look at imagination and visions and dreams. So I immediately, with this person, with this patient, um, we really bonded after the restorations were seated and whatever. There was a connection, and you'll know about this. You know, the neural coupling
Mhm.
that occurs with people. There was a neural coupling, but I didn't know what the word was. But Monica and I definitely, every time she came into the practice, we had it. There was that connection. So again, it was so rich, and I thought I've got to really explore this further, and so I did. And I just kind of walked out of my practice one day on a Thursday at 1 o'clock when my week is over, closed the door and said, John, your general dental practice is now over. And when I walked in Monday morning, said, John, your practice now is a cosmetic dental lifestyle practice. Didn't tell my staff at all what I was doing. Yeah, this was cold turkey. And they did exactly what you did there, Sabrina. They go, whoa, what are you doing to us? And I said, just act as if we're a cosmetic dental practice. Let your imagination go with what that may seem to you today, and we will figure this out as we go. And we did. And it was a blast, absolute blast. There was no turning back.
That's incredible. Like the conviction that you had, you were so impacted that you knew this is what we have to do. I have to do this going forward. It's my calling. I also understand though that just making that decision, it didn't just happen overnight, even though you knew in your mind that was an overnight decision, but you had trouble convincing people to utilize this service.
Correct.
So talk about that. What was going on there?
What I realized, Sabrina, when I was going to venture into this area, and particularly the experience with Monica, is that the patients that come in and are wanting cosmetic dentistry or lifestyle dentistry, and lifestyle means that they are wanting to do a smile makeover because they feel that that is the hurdle that is preventing them from having the life that they would love to have. They have this dream and vision out there, but there's this huge barrier between them and that is their smile. It's their embarrassment. It's their self-flagellation. It's their humiliation that they've experienced. It's the judgment of others that they feel that they have lived with. And so, how can they get um, to that other side? So these were very different people that were coming in versus the ones coming in to see me for a cleaning,
Mhm.
fillings here and there, maybe a crown or two. Their emotional makeup was different. They were fragile, um, and needing someone to look them in the eyes and say, "Hey, we can do this."
Mm.
And so, what I knew I needed to do, Sabrina, though, was learn how to communicate to these people in a very different way. But then also, once I learned that skill, utilize it with every patient, whether they're a lifestyle or a general practice patient, utilize those skills. And I did. And when I did that, learning how to become a super communicator, a master of communication, is not magical. It's not something that anybody can do it. But what happens, Screen, when you learn to do it, it creates magic. It creates a relationship that is something else.
Well, and what I think is different about your approach is you call it story listening,
Correct.
not storytelling. I mean, that's the
No,
traditional take on it. To be a great
exactly.
communicator, we have to tell our stories and we have to work on them and hone and refine. That's not the path that you've gone down. You are a
No,
story listener. And
correct.
so, talk to me about what started happening as you asked your patients, tell me your story.
Yeah. Um, a lot of times the patient would look at me and go, "What?" Just kind of like, you indicated at the first is how many dentists or professional
Yeah.
medical professionals ask you, "Tell me your story, tell me about you." No, they don't. They come in with their tablets, they come in with their little iPads and whatever, and they're really kind of clicking on it versus looking you in the eyes and squaring around and say, "Hey, Sabrina, tell me your story." And when someone asks you, invites you to tell your story, you are honoring them and showing a tremendous amount of respect for them as an individual. And all my attention was focused on them. I didn't care spouse, who else was with them. I was focused on them. And I had an assistant in the room with me, and she was taking notes and helping kind of navigate the waters with me. But I was very intentionally focused on that individual. And once they really sensed, they would look at me and go, "What do you mean?" And I would just tell them, "Sabrina, tell me what you want me to know about you that will help us figure out where you want to go with your treatment."
Mm.
Boom. Just by that second question like that, I saw a change in the body posture. I saw a difference in their facial expression. And this was within minutes of me meeting them. And there's something that is very special about that when you ask the questions in a really authentic, sincere way of, "I want to know you.
Mhm.
I want to know you." They open up. And I heard stories, Sabrina, that I could spend half a day here telling you stories and it would drop your jaw as to what people were going through and why they were coming in for this dentistry.
Yeah. I think this is so profound because we have a lot of business owners who are in very technical professions. Dentistry is a very technical profession,
Mhm. Mhm.
and we can be masters of the technical work. And if we want to make a transformation in someone's life, mastering the technical skill does not bring about the transformation. And what I think is so profound about what you're doing is you unlocked something that was very powerful and you didn't know what to do with it. You're like, this is so big. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what do I do with this? But you recognized that you were doing something technical, but if you added the human component to it by being
Right.
curious about the other person and how did they get to be in front of you and what is it that led them there? What is the pain that they're currently experiencing and honoring that and validating it?
Correct.
And then finding out what they want. Like, what is it that, you're going to walk out of here, you're going to have this procedure and it's going to be great. What does it do for you? What does it open up in your life that's not currently happening? And that is very powerful. So I really want you to kind of walk through that process of
Yeah.
technical dentistry to transforming lives.
Yeah. You know what was happening, Sabrina? You brought up some great points there. What was happening when I was transitioning into this lifestyle practice was I was transitioning from transactional dentistry
Mm,
to transformational dentistry. And that was so fulfilling for me. I was providing fulfillment for the patient and for my staff. My staff was very proud of what we did. Um, and they were a big part of it. I couldn't have done it without them, but it was just awesome watching my staff take this. What was very effective for me to help the patient continue to release any type of apprehension, adversarial thinking, any conjuring negative thoughts about going to the dentist and having this done. Would When I would get to the point, and a lot of times they'd bring in pictures out of magazines,
Mm.
and that was part of their dream. I knew that every one of these patients, everyone had a mental vision and dream of their life after they've had the new smile. I knew it 100%. So I'd say, Sabrina, I know prior to coming in here, and what part of the driving force of you coming in here is that you do have a dream and vision of what your life looks like after you've had this dentistry done to restore your smile, something that you're very proud of, and you have gained some confidence back in yourself. Share with me what that life looks like to you.
Mm.
And that was another magical question, because I got them to living in that moment. And, again, when I asked that question, your face lit up.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what the patient did. They're going, someone finally wants to know what my life looks like to me after this is done. Someone finally cares. It's unfortunate, as spouses or significant others, often we're not there for the people, our wife, husband,
Mhm.
significant other. We're not really there to the extent with which they're comfortable in sharing their dreams.
Mhm.
Sometimes our spouses and significant others are our most critical critics,
Mhm.
and we shut down.
Mhm.
And we can share with our girlfriends or guys. We don't really kind of share that kind of stuff. But what good is that going to do in helping them accomplish what they want? They feel like they've got that. They feel like the elephant with the ball and chain around their leg. I want help, but no one is listening to me.
Mhm.
So all it was is, Sabrina, is learning to listen, intentional listening, deep listening for those little trigger words, and watching for the little trigger emotions in the patient. And you can pick up on it. You being the psychologist and the expert that you are with things, you know when someone's communicating with you that, boom, there's a great little trigger point right there. I've got to come back to it. Well,
Mhm.
that's what I did. That was my next question. That was my next thought. That's where we went next. Is, as you were telling that story, you mentioned this, and your eyes lit up. Share with me a little bit more about that. See, I wanted to get down to the gut level. I
Mhm.
wanted the gut level, and I wanted them to really share with me the detail of their dream, because they came in living their disability. They came in with their shoulders slumped. They came in, being skeptical. Their faces weren't warm and inviting when they smiled. But then when they went through their dream and vision, and I dug a little deeper, boy, it just 180 with them. And they sensed they had a friend. And what do friends do with each other, Sabrina? We have each other's back. We
Mm.
can tell things to them knowing that it's not going to go anywhere and we're not going to be judged. We also know that that person is going to help us along the way in our journey. They're going to pick us up when we need to be picked up. And that's what happened with my patients. This kind of dentistry was so fulfilling for me. I loved it. I just loved it. Every day I'd go to the office and go, I have an opportunity today to
Mm.
help that patient really feel like the hero that they were meant to be. And the hero of the story, Sabrina, was always the patient. It wasn't the dentistry that we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
The dentistry only changed their smile. They would all, after I seated the case with them, I'd have them come back 2 weeks later, and they would all share with me their appreciation. Dr. Gordon, you cannot imagine how you have changed my life. And I would say to them, Sabrina, I fixed your teeth. I gave you your teeth back to what God gave you in the first place. But you know who's really changing your life? You are.
Mhm.
You're the one. You're the hero. Go out there. I would kind of get a little bossy at this point. Go out there and be the hero.
Mm.
Show the people who you are. You now have the opportunity to go out and make a dent in the world, and you have the opportunity to go out and help transform the people around you. They are the hero.
Yeah, that's very profound. And one of the one of the life lessons that I learned early on is that when we listen to someone and we give them the gift of our full presence and attention without judgment,
Yep.
that is how we connect with another human being, really connect. And you described it so beautifully about the trust that gets established just from that act of listening without
Yep.
judgment and being
Yep.
open to what they have to share, being curious about it. And it's interesting because there's so many parallels in what you do and what I do. I'm not a dentist. I'm not changing people's smiles, but what we do at Tap the Potential, we work with burnt out business owners who
Yes.
have
Yeah.
they long to enjoy their life and their business again. And we start off very similar to how you start. We ask them, you know, what do you want? A year from now,
Mhm.
we're celebrating wins from you with you. What are we going to be celebrating? And it's that act. And what I find interesting is your patients have been dreaming about a future. A lot of our clients have stopped dreaming. And so we're part of just asking, what do you want and what wins do you want to celebrate? Triggers that, oh, I haven't thought about those things in a long time. I've given up on those things. But through the journey that we take them on, it comes back very similar. We help them become more profitable. And the feedback that we get is it's not about the money, Dr. Sabrina. It's about the time with my kids. It's about how I'm experiencing my life and my family and how I'm reconnecting with just enjoying things away from work again, being
Correct.
healthier, all of those things. And it's like we taught them some skills, but they're the hero. And so I
Correct.
love how your when your patients are coming back and they're saying, here's how you've changed me. You're empowering them, you're putting it back on them. And it's almost like you're giving them a mission to go out
Hmm.
there and do something bigger
Yes.
because they now have this opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm doing with them is I'm nudging, I'm pushing,
Mhm.
I'm strongly encouraging. You have given yourself a gift.
Mm,
You came here, you could have gone to anybody, but you came here and together we developed a friendship. And that friendship allowed us to work together, trust each other, take care of each other. And you gave yourself the gift. And the gift was the probability of you living your vision and dream. How many people do that for themselves, honestly? Not
mhm,
very many people.
mm.
I think it takes tremendous courage. And this is where I had so much respect for these people when they came in to see me, because I could pretty well tell exactly, the degree of personal torture that they were experiencing in their life. And they mustered the courage to start walking through the landmines per se to give themselves freedom again. It's awesome.
That's
Just
tremendous.
awesome.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
So I have something that I'm really curious about.
Yeah.
As a business coach who has taken business owners through transforming their businesses, like making some big change so that they're doing something that's more in alignment with who they are and their calling. One of the things that I know is the typical experience is the business owner is convicted. This is where we need to go. We're going to take the business this way. And you tell your team, And not all of them are on board. And as you are going through this transformation yourself,
Mhm.
can you walk us through what it was like? How did you get your team on board? How did you get the right team? Because now the work that you're doing is it's the same, maybe technical, still technical, but it's transformational. How did you get your team on board
Yeah,
with that so that there
yeah,
was an entire experience conveyed from the moment the patient walks in through
yeah,
for every interaction in the
yeah.
office?
Um, that was a fun trip because, as you can guess, not everybody was on board,
Mm.
but I had to talk it. I had to practice that during the day, as I said.
Mm.
Um, I asked them for their help in this transformation, in this transition. I need your help. I cannot do this alone.
Ah, okay.
Will you join me? And as we go through this process and this journey, and as we grow, we're going to see the culture change.
Hmm.
I hope that I see you all feel like you truly are have ownership for the practice that we are creating. I hope that you feel that you are the best assistant team in Kansas City. I hope you start to feel that you are the best hygiene team in Kansas City. And so I was kind of pre fluffing them,
Hmm.
but asking for their help and suggestion as we go through this. Be my advocate with me and for me when I leave the operatory. I gave my staff a lot of responsibility. Rise up, rise up. And you know what I'm about. You know what my philosophy is. Rise up and you be that person when I leave the room. That room is now yours and the patient. It's
Mm.
yours to navigate. You control the energy of that room. Do it with pride and courage. And so the more that I asked them to help me and to become kind of associates,
Hmm.
uh, that brought them in. That brought them to where they were going, okay. Now, some I knew that they were not capable of that role, and that was okay. And they knew it too. And so there was no hard feelings. And, I wrote them nice letters of recommendation and wished them the best of luck. And we made transitions. But by encouraging and making them part of the process, Sabrina really brought them close.
Yeah, what I really heard in that stands out to me that's very different is you asked for their help.
Yes.
And you didn't do it from a place of, I don't know what I'm doing. You painted a picture of this is where we're headed. And you also
Mhm.
conveyed, I have confidence in you. And you gave them a lot of ownership. And then you said, and I need your help.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
So,
A lot of
what?
times,
Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. A lot of times we make things more difficult than what they need to be. And, Michelangelo, we all know his little saying is the ultimate form of sophistication is simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to dummy everything down. I try to make the fewest barriers and hurdles for patients to do business with me. And I try to eliminate as many barriers and hurdles that can exist for my staff becoming the absolute best that they can become. See, I feel my responsibility as an employer is to help you, Sabrina, become the absolute best at what you do in the whole Kansas City metro region.
Mm,
That's my responsibility to you, and I take that seriously. Your responsibility is to jump on board with me.
yeah. Yeah. Those are some very profound insights on how you create a great culture and a great place to work.
Mhm.
What are you up to these days?
What am I up to these days?
Hmm.
Well, as we talked earlier in my podcast, I love podcasting. Podcasting allows me to meet a lot of great people. We met at podcast movement in Denver,
Yes.
and I met a lot of great people there. The thing I like about people that I'm able to get on my podcast, and you experience the same thing, is the imagination, the curiosity,
Hmm.
the creativity of people. For me, that is fascinating, and I want to dig into that. I want to know what makes people tick because there's something out there that I'm going to learn. And even though I'm retired by 3 years out of dentistry, and I loved dentistry and what I did right up to the very second I left the practice, but that doesn't mean I stopped being curious. That doesn't mean I stopped being using my imagination and wanting to learn. I'm reading books. I have 3 books that I'm reading right now simultaneously. And I I prepare, like I listen to podcasts a lot, like I listened to some of yours before, well, back in the fall and before today. So I'm a constant learner. I'm putting together my speaking program and also putting together a workshop program for people who want to dig a little deeper in learning how to become masters of communication. The
I,
simple way.
I love that. I think that's such an inspiration because there's so many business owners that we work with that really can't imagine life away from the business and what's on the other side. And so I really appreciate you sharing. I loved what I did and I stopped it. I retired, but I didn't stop. I continue. I'm a continual learner. You have new endeavors, and I love how your podcast has become a vehicle for you to connect with others and unlock other opportunities.
Yeah.
So that's a phenomenal example for all of
Yeah.
us. As we wrap up, I'm curious if you were to go back and speak to yourself, 10 years into your business. You're not a brand new business owner, but 10 years in,
Right.
and some of the struggles you might have had then, what are some words of wisdom you'd offer?
I would tell myself, Sabrina, pivot.
Mm,
Pivot in a way that keeps you excited and energetic about your business and hopeful. And for me, that was being extremely patient, focused, and centered. It could not be about John,
mm,
Dr. John. It couldn't be about Dr. John, the dentist. That I put the ego aside, put put who you are aside, and just realize that there's a person there. I want to get to know you. And the only way I'm going to get to know you, Sabrina, is to ask questions and then listen to your answers and your story. When we do that, our brain is craving connection. That's
mm,
just the way we are now.
mhm,
And it's becoming more so and more so through the pandemic and all of this. We are craving connection.
mhm.
And so the way that we connect, the best way that we connect is to communicate effectively, but focus our communication on the other person and magic happens.
I love that.
Yeah,
So, for those of you who want more Dr. John, be sure to check him out on the Fearless Dentistry podcast and listen to his great conversations that he has over there. Thank you for being with us, Dr. John. Any final
certainly,
words as we
Sabrina.
wrap up?
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. When we talked about this, I just couldn't wait for the opportunity to visit with you and your audience and
Yeah,
share a little bit about transactional to transformational.
it's been very powerful. Thank you.